And we're rolling. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Gotham Sound TV. I'm here with Jim Pace from Plus 24 in Sanken. Jim, thanks for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So we started off with we're rolling because Jim has a couple of new mics that we're introducing, and we are recording them on this MixPre 3 right here. So you'll see the levels flash. For the first few minutes, we will just record so that you can download these ISO files later. So we'll have a little chit-chat about the mics, and then we'll actually show you the mics.
Great.
Yeah. So, Jim, 2 new mics. Tell us about them.
2 new mics. Well, the long-anticipated second lavalier microphone from Sanken. It's called the COS-7D. It is slightly smaller. It is 2-wire, thinner wire. It has a little different response curve to it that was requested by some people. It is not replacing the COS-11D. It is in addition to it. And it's real and it's here.
Yeah, it's on you.
It's on me.
Yeah.
It's this black microphone here.
So to let people know how we're recording this, if you download these files to see how things sound to you. So obviously we're using the Shure Elvis mics for what you're hearing on YouTube or wherever you're watching. But track 1 of what you download is going to be the COS-7D. Track 2, the beige one that Jim has on, is a COS-11D, so you can that. And then the CU-M2 is above Jim, so you can see, we actually did a pretty good job on that. But yeah, you can see there's a CU-M2 above Jim on track 3, all being recorded in 32-bit float, no processing, so you can do whatever you want. Jim, so the CU-M2.
Yes, so it follows on with the CS-M1. It's not a shotgun. It is a unidirectional, so it's cardioid. It's smaller, actually physically smaller than an M1. It has lots of applications. The pricing will be the same as the CS-M1. It is the standard, what you'd expect, timbre and character of a Sanken microphone, but the package is much smaller and obviously a little bit lighter as well. So it's pretty remarkable what it can do in that shape and size.
Okay, so before we get into the physically showing of things, when are these projected to be available, both of them?
So we're accepting orders in August. We expect to start seeing product shipping in September and October. Mix and match quantities. We'll see how that works out. We expect a full range of COS-7D products and accessories, just like we have for the COS-11D.
And so you're talking about like third-party manufacturers like Bumblebee and Ursa and
plus what is provided by Sanken.
Got it. And
stock.
One thing that we notice is you're using a single double mic clip, and that's a Sanken brand.
Right.
So it's the same. The same accessories will work.
Yes, they should.
Including
we haven't seen any issues so far, but there are a lot of accessories out there to scrutinize.
Including the windscreen, that hard metal windscreen.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, and there's actually a larger windscreen that Sanken has provided, but hasn't really gained very much traction because of all the third-party products out there that do just such a fine job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, and tentative pricing.
So the CU-M2 will be the same price as the CS-M1, and at this point, the COS-7D looks to be very similar in pricing to the COS-11D. We're expecting it to be the same, but I've got to get final word. It's been a tumultuous couple of years dealing not only with parts and supplies, but tariffs. What's the tariff this week? Which has been it's been a struggle. It's been a challenge, especially the last year or so. It's been sort of whipsaw. It's a lot, it's a little, it's a lot, it's a little. We had one shipment where they tried to declare that our microphones were actually car parts. And they wanted 25% duty, and they wanted us to specify by model how much aluminum steel content was in each and where it was smelted.
And where it was smelted?
Where the aluminum and steel were smelted.
Wow.
And we went, and the kicker was if we didn't provide that information in 48 hours, they were going to reject the shipment and send it back to Japan. So luckily, dealing with our Japanese friends, I had the answers in 12 hours, and we got our shipment. But that's the sort of tumultuous environment we're in now. We just don't know.
Well, there's an obvious joke there, especially as a Sanken dealer. He who smelt it.
Yes, I understand that.
Yes,
I've heard something like that before.
Sorry, I had to. I had to.
I'm glad it wasn't an obvious joke.
No, this is pretty odd. Usually Peter is right there with me, so I'm glad you are too.
He's chuckling over there. That's okay. No guffaws in the crowd.
No, exactly. Pricing is going to be around what?
The CSM1 is $899. We're expecting the CU-M2 to be the same. What was the $469 price for? It's the same range of it was $339 to $469 range for COS-7Ds. It'll be very similar. We might be experiencing a 2 or 3% price increase over the rest of the year, but nothing major. We've absorbed most of those penalties and costs. But honestly to say, our sales have not slowed, which is good news. I'm really hoping that the production community really has the rebound that we're all anticipating and hoping for. All the local government and state government investments, all those sorts of things start to happen. And honestly, I think we should guilt and shame all the studios in keeping the work here. But I don't have that authority quite yet. But
it's true. It's a hard...
there's a smelted, belted story right there.
I mean, not to go too far off topic, but I know I have a friend in Serbia that sent me a production packet and says, you should definitely do your next movie here in Serbia. And I thought to myself, like, that is pretty appealing, but at the same time, like, I would like to have my friends here in the States, including myself, have work.
That's
so,
right. Well, I've experienced in the past when there were like musician strikes and things where they would export the scores being recorded in London or Vienna, places like that, but they always came back. So I don't know. Were the quality of players better there? Maybe. Was labor cheaper there? Probably. But in that particular space, I mean, the schedules are so compressed. You're scoring reel one. They're dubbing reel one. You're scoring reel two. I mean, they're one reel behind you dubbing. You're handing stuff off, and I still don't think that that's capable in a world we have now. But I am seeing a lot less ADR because the quality of the work by the production mixers has gotten so much better, and some of the tools to fix little things are out there which are better. And I'm encouraging, I'm hoping production mixers get into that to understand what the technology that's being used potentially downstream they could implement so that their deliverables are more of I'll call it a finished product.
Yeah, Peter and I just worked on something where we had to do plant mics on tables to capture a discussion between two people. So we just use Omnis. It was originally supposed to be a guide track. And the mixer, Steve McAuliffe, put it through a Cedar DNS2. Goodness gracious. It sounded really good.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we have enough of a sample on our little mix pre here. So I'm going to cut the files, and we are just going to upload this raw. I did do metadata, so you'll be able to see what's on what track. But track 1, COS-7, track 2, COS-11, track 3, CU-M2. All right. Well, look, let's dive into the actual mics themselves now that we're not recording. So why don't you take that off, and why don't you? Yeah, so let me see if I can get in there.
Okay, so the beige is the COS-11, and there's the COS-7. You can see it's slightly smaller, slightly thinner. The cable is a thinner cable. You can compare that.
We might have to get a side-by-side up on the screen. So thinner cable, shorter capsule.
Yes.
Is it shorter by 4 millimeters? Is that why it's the COS-7?
I wish I could say that. I don't know how long a millimeter is with my fingers, but there are actually the idea is that it was intentionally to be a lower number because it is smaller, and there were other products in development like a COS-12 and 14s and 16s and 17s throughout the years that just made this a natural thing for us to do. There is a different response curve, as you're probably familiar. The COS-11 has good extended low frequency rolled off at subsonics. And then has a general peak around 6K for articulation, which tends to work in really good, male voices like mine, nasal, deviated, septed, creative, terrible.
You too, huh?
Yeah. Three baseball accidents. What kind of? Oh no, 2 baseball, 1 car accident.
I have no excuse for mine. It just is.
It is, which was instantly, a benefit, especially when the products first came out. Whereas the COS-7D has a little more of has a more gradual curve. It still has the same low frequency content, but instead of a peak around 6K, there's a graduated shelf that starts, and it's a more gentle rise. And that was requested by some people. They're both going to be around. They're both going to be available. The thinner cable might have some benefits in addition to other things that aren't, call it sonic related, obviously. But that's the package right now, and it's again, the strength of this company's physics and how they design, make capsules, and how they put all that together, the capsule material, the shapes. Again, perfect omnis. I mean, if the microphone is still on, you still get the perfect the expectation of a perfect response in an omni pattern, no dropouts. The specifications they publish are real. They're not just 20 to 20, blah blah blah. They really are that, and you can actually see the response. Every microphone is measured, and every time we have a microphone in, we actually run FFT analysis in an anechoic chamber so we can make sure that the microphones that we get in are at specification, what they're supposed to be.
Every microphone?
Every microphone.
Wow.
Yes.
I did not realize that. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Well, it's interesting is for the microphone this big, the anechoic chamber only has to be this big.
That makes sense.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's right into our audio precision, and we have routines and things like that. And if we get in a situation where we've got to re-terminate a microphone, or somebody has a problem that they think the microphone is a problem, we're actually able to verify that against what we call the reference standard microphones and measurements. So try to be very careful with that.
How do you do that with a pigtail microphone? Do you just have leads that you clamp in?
Yeah, we have a circuit board that sets it up for the power, the voltage, so it gives it. Now, as everyone knows, when you run a microphone at 48 volts, you have the potential of having more dynamic range just because there's higher rails as opposed to a small inline battery, which could be as little as 1.5 volts. So typically, in a pigtail environment, you're up against what could be noise floor, but a lot of it is dependent on the impedance matching of the transmitter system you have. If the impedance is matched right, then your noise floor can be as low as it can be. And the transmitters have gotten so much better over the last 10 years. And also the quality of the mic pre's in the transmitters and the A to D converters, all those things have gotten up to that 90th percentile or 95th percentile that you can get. Part of my background was I was involved with development of very, very high-end A to Ds and D to A converters. There's a lot of studies we did about how that works. And none of that's really changed much. There are some people now that you will see promoting 40-bit conversions, 64-bit conversions, and some of that has to do with how they can take two converters. Let me put this back on because I need both hands here.
Oh, here, actually, hand it over to me.
Yeah. So if something is more the noise floor of a resistor is higher than in 24 bits. So that means there's always going to be noise in the system. And the discussion in those days was, could you hear into the noise? And the answer is yes. You just have to be able to discriminate how that works. These technologies, which came out a long time ago, have been refined a lot more. Is about how they'll take two converters and they'll overlap them in a phrase that was loosely called gain ranging. And part of the signal was in this converter, and the other part of the signal is this converter, and how that crosses over was the skill. And there's been advancements in that too. But again, and here's the other part of this is clocking. Clocking is so important how these things in a digital world go. If you've got a, quote, digital microphone, you're either having to clock it or it's going to have to be sample reconverted on this first stage it comes in. So how good is that? How good do those two things happen? So we don't sell those products per se, but great companies that make portable pre's and mixers and A to D converters. That's been the study. The good news is the silicon you can buy now that does all this stuff has gotten so much better over the last 20 years. Like I said, you're in the 90th percentile, to start with. So
that's great. So now that I've got the COS-7Ds over here, showing that against my pants, it's a little bit hard to see with the dark blue and the black, but you can see the COS-11 is the beige on the left, and the COS-7 is the black on the right. You can definitely see that the capsule on the COS-7, it looks like 4 millimeters to me.
Good eyeballs.
I'm no
Good
metric scientist. You can see it's definitely shorter. It has less of a, like the rubber back of the COS-11. It's definitely, that doesn't have that.
Right.
And it does look like it's thinner, even though it fits in the same accessories.
Yeah, some of that is the way the coating is too.
I see.
The COS-11, we always, for people that were doing live stage, things like that, the idea is you can paint them. except obviously you're not going to paint the mesh. But and I'm not certain if that's possible with the COS-7. I'll have to research that.
We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you can also see let me see if I can, you can see that the wire is definitely a little bit thinner.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of durability, do you expect this to have the same? Because people love.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, that's been the intent. I mean, that was part of the reason why the research took so long to do that, because they really have to understand. They understand the robustness requirements that they didn't understand when they first introduced the COS-11 in 19, right, a long time ago. The first units came in were thinner wire, but they weren't as robust, and it was a cultural difference. They, you know, the talent in Japan, you know, the take is over, or the talking head finishes the broadcast, and they sit there politely waiting for the professional to come over to remove their product, and they say thank you. And none of this. They just didn't understand.
None of that. Get me out of here.
Yeah. This is too heavy. Get me out of this. They just didn't understand that. So that was a cultural thing that they had to get with.
Was there a predecessor to the COS-11D?
Yeah, well, there was a COS-11. Then there was an 11S, which was the first version that had the thicker wire. Then there was a COS-11X, which actually had more strain relief.
Huh?
And all those improvements were carried through. And then the D was for the digital transmission of noise, because as we know, these are antennas. All these wires are antennas, and the signal could bleed in. In an analog world, you would be able to put a filter in the termination to try and filter out some of those in those environments, not just for noise, but obviously for sensitivity. But in the digital realm, the concern was that the signal would go up into the capsule, mix in with the capsule, and then go back down. So when the D was introduced, there's actually another FET that was put it inside the microphone.
Oh, wow, up in the capsule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
How? Don't ask me. I mean, I watched these ladies.
How, Jim? How?
How? I mean, I watched them. They can final assemble like, I think 6 microphones an hour.
Wow.
I can't open the case in 6.
No, yeah, that's a lot. Absolutely.
Or 10 minutes, whatever that is. Yeah.
That's
It's
wild.
amazing. And it's getting all the final assemblies are done by hand.
Yeah.
For all their products.
So let's shift gears,
Yes.
unless there's something else you want to say about the 7D.
No, I think those are the 3 things: the different curve, slightly different curve, the thinner wire, and the shorter overall body.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. And price is going to be similar, so that's perfect.
Yep.
So for reference, pricing tentatively for the COS-7D is going to be about $389 with a TA connector, TA4, TA5, and then it's going to be about $429 with a LEMO 3. Those are the 2 most common things that we see here. There are obviously other variations, but when it's available in a couple months, check it out.
Yep.
All right, so let's switch to the CU-M2.
Right.
Feel free to take it down. It'll probably be easier to play with and whatnot, and unplug it.
Yes.
And that's fine. And then we can have that random XLR dangling in front of your head. No, get that out of there.
I think I can do that.
Perfect. All right, let's see. So that's the CU-M2. So tell me about the characteristics of that.
It's a cardioid, so it has a smaller interference tube to help with maintain that pattern. Very similar grilling that you see on all the Sanken products. Obviously 3-pin XLR, 48 volts. I would say, as I said, it has the same sort of timbre characteristics of all the M-class microphones, the M2 and all the new products that we have. There'll probably be a shorter stereo microphone.
Is it the same capsule as the?
It's the same capsule material.
I
yes.
see.
Yeah. Now it might be. It's probably it's the same capsule size as the CS-M1, but obviously the electronics. See, one thing about them was their use of electronics doesn't. They're not producing enough electronics in there to do a lot of processing. It is pretty much straight wire electronics. They've done some development with some very high-end audio circuit design people throughout their history. So it's really about the physics of the microphone, how that translates from the sound to the electrical impulse and into your mic pre.
And so that mic, that from a physical perspective, that is 3 inches?
Actually, I'd have to look it up, but my guess is it is about
It says 3 inches on the spec sheet.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can't, I was thinking in millimeters again, but yeah, 3 inches versus.
That is not 3 millimeters. That is.
No, and the M1 is about 4.1, something like that.
Okay, so it's a full inch shorter.
Yeah.
And then you said it's a cardioid pattern.
Yes.
It's not a super or hyper.
No, two reasons. One, they would have had to make the microphone bigger for a longer gradient too,
Uh-huh.
and a little bit different application.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't really expect to see too many of these sitting on top of a camera, but who knows?
Right.
Right. It's funny. I saw a picture of the Sanken family is third generation. The first generation started the company in 1926, and there's a picture of their earliest lavalier, and it was that big.
And that's a throwback.
It was that big. That was the first lavaliers that you could buy with that big. Of course, your neck sort of stiffened over after a while.
Will there be a clip to wear it that way?
I don't know. We're gonna have to blame Peter for that.
That's true. That's true. We'll have to 3D print something.
That's right. But yeah, you're welcome to.
Thank you. I'll get that. I'll get a close up here so you can see it very close.
And because electronics are so simple, they use very little space, which gives them the ability for a microphone that's 3 inches long to have a larger component of that length be the interference tube, so you can get more reach than you would expect out of a microphone that small. And the same with the M1. The reach in the M1 is exemplary for a product that's only 4 inches long. So,
the thing that stands out. I mean, I know people really like the M1 a lot. But it's such a good value.
Yeah.
It's $900
retail.
Yeah, this will be the same, and now you can actually start to have a matching set where you have the M1 is a short shotgun, right?
It's a super / hypercardioid.
Yeah,
so it's more rejection.
And then you could this will match well with it.
Yeah, sure.
And then you've got the CS3E, which is
Right.
very directional.
Right. And then the CSR2 if you want rear rejection, which has been pretty helpful in sports environments, things like that, where you don't want the crowd, you just want what's on field.
Yeah.
Or if you've got somebody who's asking questions off camera, it'll isolate that a little bit better. And that one's physically a little bit bigger, so it's got a little bit more reach too for that same application.
Yep. And there's 3 capsules in that one too, I think, right?
Yes, there's 3 capsules in the CS3E and the CSR2. 1 for pickup and 2 for rejection.
One of my good sound friends, Miel, swears by the CSR2. Just loves it, says it saved her life a million times. So something to think about.
Yeah, and there's the CS1E, which became very popular for camera mount, and that's the medium product. And there's there's a CS2, which was sort of one of the early microphones, and physical dimensions, proportions, very similar to a very popular microphone that other company has made for 50 years. But a different character and sound. And then there's a whole plethora of stereo mics that are just growing. I think the last time I looked, we were up to 11 or 12 shotguns in the product line. That
CSM50 is, it's amazing. We're not talking about that now, but it's a little bit longer than this guy, and it's got 2 capsules in it for MS, and there's a couple of different versions of that are doing XY, and they're switchable, and it's really the Sanken stereo mics are not anything to sleep on.
Well, it's becoming more and more acceptable. There was a period of time when it was just too much for people to handle, and it wasn't so much the production sound people. It was transfer upstream. There was probably a whole decade when nobody wanted to use MS because they didn't trust the transfer department could get that right. Which is kind of amazing. Now it's built into the mixers and all this sort of thing, and it's permeated through all sorts of things. If you go into mastering environments and things like that for records, they're constantly doing processing mid-size. It's a new technique to pull things like that out. So I don't know. And in fact, it's discontinued now, but when we started getting into surround microphones, and it started with Sanken's development with the NHK, which is the Japanese BBC, if you can relate to that. The NHK has a 7-story research facility just for sound and picture, which is amazing. It's unique in the world that they do that, and there's nothing commercial about it. It's just for the betterment of the media that happens. So the first pictures I saw they've got 100 production mixers or something like that affiliated with the NHK, and there would be somebody standing out in the field with a white construction helmet on it, with 5 microphones attached to it, and they stood very still while they were catching ambience. They were serious about all that. Yeah, the offshoot of that was Sanken provided a product that was what we called dual MS.
Mm-hmm.
So it had a hypercardioid center capsule and then a figure 8. And from that, you'd get a hard center, and using MS, you'd get a left and a right. So left, right, and center. But they also had a cardioid capsule facing the rear. So that cardioid capsule mixed with the MS would give you left rear, right rear. So
Right.
you had a point and shoot 5-channel microphone. The only problem with it was $5,000, and it was kind of before its time. And now all the binaural, the knobs and steering abilities for microphones, it sort of replaced that whole concept. But
People are still doing DMS. Yeah.
Yeah.
People will get 3 mics and throw them in a Rycode or in a
Yeah.
Sonella, and then they'll
Sure.
record that DMS and
yeah,
they'll get that DMS.
yeah. So the company's changed a little bit. It's really focusing on its strengths. We've pared down some of the studio product lines. They were esoteric's the wrong word. They were just unique. Everything they do is unique. I mean, they invent microphones. They don't just make another one and have some factory on the continent of Asia make it cheap for them. They just don't do that. But that's their generation family. They're artisans. They're craftspeople. Yeah, and Ichiro is now 58, and he's still too young to run the company.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully our viewers at home have learned a little bit about the COS-7D and the CU-M2. And like we said, we have the file. We have a WAV file, 32-bit float with each of these microphones for the first few minutes of this conversation, available to download, unprocessed. So there'll be no cutting around that, and you'll be able to see these things in September, October.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm glad you're really good at remembering these model numbers. I've got so many in my head, I'm prone to getting them incorrect myself.
I hear you. It's a lot from one manufacturer, and imagine having to have.
I can relate.
Many, yeah, because
Yeah.
Plus 24 not only represents Sanken, you do a whole.
Yeah, we do Brainstorm Electronics, which is a really wide clocking environment, clocking and time code, which has just grown exponentially. It's a great product. The development has been, actually we started working with Brainstorm in the 80s, and it was time code. Interesting story there is we thought we were getting out of time code because at one point it was all about, well, it's all going to be serial. It's all going to be this. You're never going to need LTC, things like that. Then we announced the discontinuation of the product, and we got a very irate call from a large company that I won't name that has a number of theme parks around the world, who said, "What are you doing? We need this stuff." So we actually wound up developing more products, and that's still, for show control, it's still very busy. It's very active. It's kind of amazing that's still there. But think about timecode LTC. It's a stupid little analog signal. It's not even wide bandwidth, and if you plug it in, it works. You can listen to it and kind of so you know it's listed, it works, right? So there's Brainstorm, and then we also do import all the NTP products, which you might know under the brand name of DAD. So there's a lot of that activity growing, especially since Dante, AS67, Ravenna. And it's a routing system, does all sorts of things. So that's gotten a lot of activity in post and growing more in broadcast and things like that too. So, and that's just the three, the 30,000 foot description of these products.
Right.
There's a lot with all that. Yeah, and my background is also across all things audio. So, yeah, model numbers and names, and I should be better at it.
They're all in there.
That's right.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for being here, making the trip from California and bringing this wonderful stuff. We'll have these available for demo at Gotham Sound. As always, you can watch this video and more at gothamsound.tv. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and, whatever other social media we're maintaining these days. You can email us at info@gothamsound.com with your questions and thoughts. And, thank you again. Thanks for watching, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.